President Trump addressed the nation Thursday about the Parkland, Florida high school shooting. He said more has to be done to tackle the issue of mental illness in the United States, but he made no mention of the prevalence of guns or gun violence in the country.
To every parent, teacher, and child who is hurting so badly, we are here for you, whatever you need, whatever we can do to ease your pain. We are all joined together as one American family, and your suffering is our burden also. No child, no teacher should ever be in danger in an American school.
The president also tweeted Thursday, neighbors and classmates knew he was a big problem, must always report such instances to authorities. CBS News chief congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill. Nancy, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too, DeMarco.
All right, Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio said most of the gun proposals that have been offered in the Senate would not have prevented Wednesday's shooting. Is that a similar sentiment held by other lawmakers?
You know, most of his Republican colleagues haven't gone quite that far yet, partly because we don't know all of the details surrounding this shooter, the ways in which he might have been troubled, how exactly he got the gun, et cetera, and also because, frankly, there have been some pieces of legislation that have been proposed in the past that might have prevented a shooting like this. For example, a ban on semi-automatic weapons. We know that that's the kind of weapon that this shooter was carrying. We do, however, hear from most Republicans here on Capitol Hill that they believe that this is a time to get to the bottom of what's happened. This is a time to pray for the victims and not necessarily a time to talk about legislation, aside from some lip service that's been paid to mental health legislation and the fact that clearly, as the House Speaker Paul Ryan told us this morning, that people who have mental illness need to be treated better in this country and that we need to do a better job of making sure that they don't fall through the cracks.
Nancy, does it seem like there is any room for compromise among lawmakers when it comes to gun legislation?
Well, you know, it's always possible that they could come together on an issue like bump stocks. This is something that became a big focus after the mass shooting in Las Vegas, because it was clear that the shooter had used these devices to essentially turn a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon, enabling him to kill far more people. And at the time, it seemed that there was this consensus that these types of devices clearly violate, if not the letter of the law, the spirit of the law. And there was bipartisan legislation that was drafted, but it never went anywhere, partly because Republican leaders said, you know, we think that this is best handled by the ATF. Let's give them a chance to regulate these devices before Congress steps in. What you're now hearing from some quarters, including some Republicans, DeMarco, is sentiment that perhaps it won't do to wait on the ATF and perhaps Congress should take action quickly. They can't take action that quickly, though, because all of Congress is going to be gone next week. And, you know, what we see time and again in these situations is that the more time passes after a shooting, the more Congress's attention gets focused elsewhere.
And I guess just a final question, you touched on it a bit. How likely is it that Congress does take on any gun legislation this year?
You know, anything is possible. I think one of the interesting X factors in this particular situation is that you have students and teachers from the school who are saying, don't send us your prayers. We don't want your prayers. We want you to take action. We want Washington. We want Congress to do something. That is the kind of sentiment that you could see registering here on Capitol Hill. But again, it can't register if lawmakers aren't here. And they are scheduled to take that 1 week break. And it's anybody's guess what the pressure will look like a week and a half from now when they come back and what other issues will be on their agenda.
All right, Nancy Cordes in Washington. Nancy, thank you.